Okay, now on this little quilt, which is all just large squares, I'm going to set motifs in each of the squares. So I'm going to start here with Design Sew Quilt, start new. It's going to be a block pattern, and I'm going to show it IQ on the quilt where I want to put a motif. So I'm going to touch mark on quilt, and I'm just going to move the machine so that the needle is over the first corner of the quilt. Now, because this is the top edge, I visualize the corner of this block as being about 1/4 inch down to allow for the binding. So that's the first corner of that block. Touch OK. Move the machine to the next corner. Touch OK. Move the machine to the next corner. Touch OK. The fourth corner. Touch OK. And then just touch close block. And there's the picture of the block that I just marked on the quilt. It doesn't have to be a square, it can be any shape, and if you need to get really accurate, then you can look physically by hand lower your needles so it's really close to the quilt, and then you can mark your the points of the block very accurately. Okay, block completed, finished. Now I'm going to choose the motif to put in that block. Patterns by Helen, let's choose. I'm going to choose this one actually. And IQ has decided that's how it wants to put the pattern in that block. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, so I'm going to scale it down. And I'm just going to tap the minus until it looks like it's good to me. Okay. I think I'm going to try rotating it a little bit too. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So I'm finished. And there's my motif in the block. Now I want to do that same motif in all the other blocks on this quilt. So I want, this page says add edit pattern. I don't want to do anything to the pattern, I want to add more blocks. So I'm going to touch finished, and then there's an option here that says add edit block. That's what I want to do. I want to add a block, and I want to show IQ where that is on the quilt, so I mark on quilt. Now, so I'm going to go to the block next to the one that I just marked, and again, touch the first point, touch the next point, the next point, the next point. Okay, close a block, finished. Now I want to add another block, add block. And I'm going to do it next to this one really quickly. So you don't need to. Block finished. Okay, see that block's not absolutely square, which is real life quilt. Add another block. There are 5 across here, so oops. Block. Okay, I've finished. There are my 5 blocks in the first row of this little quilt. Now I don't want to add any more blocks at this point, so I'm finished. Now I want to add that same pattern into each of these blocks, so I'm going to add edit pattern, and because I want to use this same one, the same size in all of those, I'm going to copy pattern. Select a pattern to copy by touching one of its points, so I just have to touch that pattern. It's turned red, continue, and now there's automatically a copy right there, so I'm going to move that copy. There's the copy, and if you look at the blocks here, the center point is marked with a little square. So, and the pattern too has a center point marked. It's kind of hard to see on this, but there's a little green square there. So I'm just going to grab the pattern, move it so the center point snaps to the center point of that block. That looks pretty good, so I'm finished. Okay, again I want the same size pattern, so I'm going to copy and move, snap the center of the pattern to the center of the block. Now because this block is slightly off kilter, I may want to rotate it a little to see if it looks better. Oops. I think I'll leave it like that, finished. Okay, I need to fill in these two, so copy pattern. I want to rotate that one a little bit too. Finished. Copy pattern. Move. Snap to the center of the block. And I'm going to rotate that one a little bit too. And so there, I'm finished. There are the 5 motifs that they're all exactly the same size in their blocks. And then I will just go finished, sew quilt, and now I'm going to tell it in which order to sew those patterns. Select the first pattern to quilt, that one. Okay, continue. Select the next pattern to quilt, that one, continue. Now you see there's a long straight line linking those two patterns. I don't want to do automatic jump stitch. I want to stop and cut the threads. Stop and cut threads. So that little line's turned black, showing that there won't be a drag of thread there or anything. The machine will stop when it's stitched that motif. I'll cut the threads, then I'll tell it to start, and it will just go on to the next motif. Select the next pattern to quilt, that one. Continue, stop to cut threads. That's the next one to stitch. Continue, stop to cut threads. Continue, stop to cut threads. And it's finished. And then IQ will move to the starting point and start stitching. Should we just stitch out this first one? Yeah. Okay. Continue. I'm going to, let's see how it does with this speed. Got my dial set. Okay. Okay, it's beeping at me because it's finished, so I can move the machine slightly so I can cut my threads. Move it back, almost press start. Now it's going to move to the next pattern. Bring up the bobbin thread. And you don't have to move the machine back exactly over the starting point, as long as it's close. It will move itself to the starting point. And I just continue in that way until the whole row is done. The nice thing about, I'm one of those people that likes to stitch in the thread ends, so the nice thing about this is when I cue stitching the next motif, I can stitch in that thread end and have it all done. So